I'm done, sir. Forrest Gump, why did you put the gun together so quickly? You told me, sir. Oh, my God, that's a new company record.
He's a retard, but to the instructors, he's a genius with an IQ of less than 80. He's had a great life.
When he was a kid, he ran from bullies, and because he was so fast, he became a household name in American football.
Showed his friends how to improvise. Fran became king of the dance floor.
Grew up and joined the army and became a national hero. When I started my business, I invested in a fruit store. This fruit store came to be known as the Apple. Who would have thought that this legend was just a boy with an IQ of less than 80, and his legs weren't very good. He grew up wearing a leg brace. Because of this, Forrest Gump was often looked at differently. His mom always told him, "You're not like everyone else.
Everybody else.
You're different."
So different.
But the reality was harsh. No school would accept him because his intelligence was lower than normal. In order for Forrest to be treated fairly, they got together. What about your husband? He went on vacation. That's how Gump got into the school. But no one on the bus wanted to be around retards until he heard the sweetest voice in the world. "You can't sit here if you want." The girl's name was Jenny. Besides Forrest's mom, she was the only one who ever talked to Forrest. They were inseparable and became good friends. Gump also noticed that Jenny didn't seem to like going home.
He later learned that Jenny's father drank heavily and sexually molested her.
All Jenny wanted to do was turn into a bird and run away.
Luckily, she eludes the police and moves in with her grandmother.
Forrest is often bullied by bad kids. Jenny could do nothing but tell Forrest to run away.
Run, Forrest, run.
The bad kids got on their bikes and chased. Gump unintentionally breaks free.
Forrest Gump realized that he was far more talented at running than others.
And so the two grew up. The bad boys grew up to be thugs. They drove trucks and bullied Forrest Gump. Gump couldn't outrun the truck. Even with his talent, he ran for cover and ended up on the soccer field. He's like the wind. He's faster than any pro football player. Who the hell is that guy? His name was Forrest Gump. Coach took him to college. He became a football player. And for what he did on the field, Forrest Gump made the All-American team. For a time, he was the president's favorite. He got his college degree and became his mother's pride and joy. But before he could rest, he was sent off to join the army. On the bus to the army, he was once again snubbed. Only a soldier named Blue would sit next to him. Forrest excelled in the army because he was surprisingly obedient. He does everything from shining shoes to scrubbing floors. His superior was the handsome Lieutenant Dan. He came from a military family. His forefathers gave their lives honorably for their country.
So his subordinates respect him. They spend most of their time in boredom.
Forrest took the time to write to Jenny, but Jenny couldn't receive her letters as she traveled around the world. Their feelings were washed away by the rain. The rainy season ends and war comes. The troops are ambushed. Lieutenant Dan orders a retreat. Run, Forrest, run.
In the panic, Gump hears Jenny's call. He started to run. He ran as fast as he could, so fast that he was alone. He came to his senses and had to go save his best friend, Blue. Along the way, he met many of his comrades who had once sneered at him. Without hesitation, he carries them on his back.
LT then stops him. The air raid is about to begin. Gump didn't care. He knew his best friend was still out there. Finally, 1 second before the bombing, he found Brewer. Brewer had been shot several times. He wouldn't survive. His eyes drifted through time and space. He saw his mother. He saw the little boy who swore he'd grow up to buy a fishing boat. It was the biggest dream of his life. Gump remembered that dream.
When he got to the hospital, Forrest Gump was very happy.
Because he could have his favorite ice cream. LT Dan had both legs amputated and needed to be carried to take a shower.
Forrest Gump, who had nothing else to do, learned to play ping pong in the barracks.
He swung a paddle all day long. His world was simple and free of distractions. His skills improved quickly. One night, LT then yanked Forrest Gump out of bed. He hated Forrest Gump for saving him. He could have been honored like his ancestors. But now he was a legless monster. Gump's pinning ceremony was televised. Forrest Gump saved the lives of an entire company. Forrest Gump was the pride of his country. And even more fortunate, Gump met Jenny again during an anti-war speech. This time, Gump didn't hesitate. He felt stronger than ever. He wanted to be Jenny's boyfriend. Jenny didn't respond. She just told her story. She'd been living on the streets for many years. She was unstable.
Though she was struggling financially, but she felt a sense of freedom that she hadn't felt in a long time.
She sees her life as the polar opposite of Forrest Gump's. Before saying goodbye, Forrest Gump gives Jenny the Medal of Honor. He thinks he got the Medal of Honor because he listened to Jenny.
Their relationship goes beyond friendship and love. They were separated once again.
That day, he met LT then again. By this time, Forrest Gump had everything that LT then could ever dream of.
LT then was in a wheelchair and living on welfare.
They went to a tavern together. Forrest told LT then that he wanted to grant his dead friend Blue's wish.
LT then smiled and swore, if Forrest Gump becomes captain, he will be Forrest Gump's subordinate. The bells ring in the new year and everyone is happy. Only LT then was sullen. He knew that the new year was as hopeless as ever. Shortly afterward, Gump received his discharge. Then he returned home to Blue. With the rest of the money, he bought a shrimping boat named Jenny. He was accompanied by his best friend and the girl he loved. Despite the meager daily harvest, he persevered. One day on his way home, He saw a familiar face. He excitedly jumped into the water and went ashore. Lieutenant Dan was his old self again.
Every day, Lieutenant Dan Saturday at the bow of the boat, commanding Forrest Gump to move forward. It was as if he had found the meaning of life, but they still couldn't catch any shrimp. And to make matters worse, there was a typhoon.
Lieutenant Dan was very excited. He Saturday at the highest point and yelled at the top of his voice.
It was as if he was fighting his destiny, and he won. Not only were they the only shrimping boat to survive Hurricane Carmen, there was a rainbow after the storm, and every time he went out on the water, he came back fully loaded.
Lieutenant Dan saw a business opportunity. He bought a lot of boats, customized uniforms, and refrigerated warehouses.
He was even featured in Fortune magazine.
One day on a shrimping trip, Lieutenant Dan stopped Forrest Gump out of nowhere.
I never thanked you for saving my life. So LT then jumped into the water and thanked Forrest Gump. Put down the past.
Just then, Forrest Gump's mother fell ill. Forrest Gump rushed home as fast as he could. He couldn't believe that his mother, who had been so strong all his life, was lying in bed.
He couldn't believe that the person closest to him was leaving him forever.
His mother reassured him that death was a part of life. Life is like a box of chocolates.
You never know what flavor the next one will be.
Mother always had a way to make Forrest Gump understand these harsh truths. LT then continued to manage Forrest Gump's shrimping company and invested in an apple company for Forrest Gump. LT then said the money would never run out.
Forrest Gump remembered his mother's advice. He used the extra money for charity. He gave Mother Brewer a steady stream of money with a fortune that many would envy. Gump felt empty. He fantasized that Jenny would come to him, and Jenny did.
She slept as soundly as ever.
In their spare time, they talked to each other about their past every day. Gump picked flowers and gave them to Jenny. Jenny gave him a pair of comfortable running shoes.
They danced together like a family. Gump had the time of his life. It was Christmas time again. Gump asked Jenny, "Will you marry me? I'll be a good husband." Jenny, "You don't want to marry me."
Gump didn't understand why, only to wake up the next day and realize that Jenny was gone again. With the loss of his mother and the absence of Jenny, Gump couldn't find a center of gravity. All he could do was run. He ran out of town. He ran to the beach. All he knew was to eat and sleep. The only constant was running. His story was picked up by the press. Jenny, who worked in a restaurant, was shocked by Forrest Gump's behavior. Many media asked Forrest Gump about the purpose of his running, but Forrest Gump had no purpose. He just ran for the sake of running. Forrest Gump gained more and more followers. On the way, there was a businessman who had a sticker business. Gump then said shit happens, and so the art of stickers was born. He wiped his face with a t-shirt. A new brand was born. Forrest Gump had been running for 3 years and 2 months. Suddenly, he felt tired. He announced to his followers that he was going to stop and rest. Just then, he received a letter from Jenny. Jenny had changed. She was more confident, more sunny, because she had a baby. Forrest is surprised and delighted, but when Jenny said it was Gump's baby too, he looked horrified. He did love Jenny very much, but he was more worried that the child would inherit his mental deficiencies.
Jenny reassured Forrest Gump that he had done nothing wrong. Smart. For example, he's very smart. He was the smartest one in their class. Gump's heart dropped when he heard that. Jenny saw that the father and son looked happy. They went home and got married. LT then was invited to the wedding. He got a wife. He also got himself a new pair of legs. Forrest Gump and LT then smiled at each other. There were 1,000 words between them, but they didn't speak.
Not many people attended the wedding, but they were all important people in Gump's life. Happiness was short-lived. Jenny became like Forrest Gump's mother. At the last moment of her life, she finally said 3 words to Forrest Gump: "I love you." Gump buried Jenny under the tree where they used to play. He wanted Jenny to be happy every day. Their child was very healthy. He was smarter than his classmates. Early one morning, Forrest Gump took his son to school.
"Hey, Forrest Gump, don't. I want to tell you that I love you. I love you too, Dad."
You do realize this is a school bus, right? Of course I know. You're Dorothy, and I'm Forrest Gump.
It's like everything's come full circle. Enter Forrest Gump's life in chocolate. Forrest Gump was never stupid, not at all. Only people who do stupid things are stupid.
Along the way, he's had relationships, honor, money, he's gained and he's lost, but the only constant was that he kept running. Life is like a box of chocolates with different flavors. You never know what flavor the next one will be. It's because of its simplicity. That's why it's such a remarkable and inspiring life.